How are you?
Nice one. Thank you. I'm doing good, Roars. I'm doing really good. I got a bit of a late night last night. Um, I was watching Jurassic Park 2 with my flatmate Jake.
Right.
Um, Classic film. Haven't seen that in a long time. Really enjoyed that. And yeah, so I went to bed at I think about midnight. And then I had a big lie in this morning, but I was still slow starting. So I've got a nice cup of tea, which actually really helps. Fine, I don't even need coffee. Cup of tea does the same job a coffee normally does. Well, maybe not so much, but
That's cool.
yeah. Hmm.
What is your childhood like living in Brighton like?
What my years living in Brighton like?
And your
Okay, so I
childhood.
get well, I didn't spend my childhood in Brighton. Um if you remember, I spent most of my childhood in Cornwall. Um and I moved to Brighton as an early adult, really. I moved to Brighton when I was 18. So I suppose Brighton was my early adulthood and still is, but I was still definitely a bit of a child in Brighton and still am, for sure. But it's been really good in Brighton these years. I mean, obviously, I did 3 years of university, um, and got my degree in music production, learnt to produce music, and I've also been working with a boy with Down syndrome called Jack, who I think I've told you about. And I'm still working with Jack to this day. I was with him yesterday. Recently, we've been playing Spyro on the Xbox, which is a game that I used to play a lot when I was a child. And I loved Spyro a lot. So it's really good fun being able to play that with Jack. And yeah, I've done so much fun things in Brighton. Actually, I've been to loads of gigs. I've played loads of gigs. Spent a lot of time on the beach with friends, going for swims and stuff. I was just thinking yesterday how I'm looking forward to the weather getting warmer and warmer, so I can hopefully go for a swim again. Um, and going for lots of long walks as well. While I've been in Brighton, I've been discovering the downs surrounding the city. There's some really beautiful hills and forests. So I've been exploring all of those places. A couple of days ago, me and two of my friends drove up to Hollingbury Hill Fort, which is a big, like, Celtic. It's an old Celtic hill fort. There's no really real remains of the fort itself, but you can see that the whole top of the hill is kind of rounded and shaped in a way that, well, that's basically what Brighton used to be, I guess, 1,000 years ago or whatever, maybe more. So so we went up there and we watched a really beautiful sunset, and then after the sunset we watched the full moon rising. So that was a really special little evening, actually. um yeah, so amazing times in Brighton. There's lots to see, lots to do, and lovely, amazing, lovely people.
Oh. Oh, this is a good question for you. What
Okay.
what is it like to be my manager and produce beautiful music album with me?
Ah, what a good question, Rory. What a good question. I can give you a short answer and a long answer. The short answer is it's absolutely wonderful and a privilege and a pleasure. Um, I absolutely love doing this. As you know, we've already done one album, and I enjoyed that so much and learnt so much from it. I think we both did. And now doing this second album, it's the same process again. I'm learning so much. Um, yeah, I feel really really lucky to be able to do this with you, Roz. Really really lucky. It's it gives me the opportunity to really take the time that I need to make some music for someone, because yeah, well, obviously your mum's kindly investing financially in it, which gives me the time to really put all of my effort into making these songs as good as they can be for you, and it gives you the time as well. When we meet up, as you know, I I try and get the best vocal takes out of you, don't I? And I say we can do a better one, and we can do a better one, and we can do a better one, and we'll go over and over and over, and it's yeah, having the time to do that, to just make this music as great and polished as it can be. Yeah, really, real privilege that's been. And I've really enjoyed working on all these new songs. I don't want to say too much because I'm aware you might ask some more questions that might cover what I'm going to say. So yeah, so just as a general thing, it's an absolute privilege. Um, and you're also working with you is so good, Rory, because you're really creative, but so am I, and I create the all of the music and produce all the music, and you've written all the lyrics, and you're the star with the voice. But sometimes we have to compromise a little bit on ideas, don't we? Like sometimes there'll be a little sort of change I'll make to the lyrics to fit some of the music, and you're really good at compromising with those things as well. So it's a bit of a back and forth process, I think, but I'm so glad that you're a really good person to work with as well. You know, you've got the creativity and the zest, but you've also got the personality that makes it easy to work with you. So yeah, pleasure, mate. Pleasure.
Um, where did you get inspiration to make Perspective album?
Oh yeah, my album Perspectives. I completely forgot that was what you were interviewing me on. I thought we were going to be talking about your album actually. Um, Perspectives. Yeah, of course. That's so that this is so I've been talking about your album a little bit. Perspectives is my album that I've been working on for about 5 years, I think. I started working on this album pretty much when I moved to Brighton. So maybe even 6 years ago when I had the first ideas. What was the question again? Where did I get the inspiration?
Yeah, where did you get inspiration to make Perspective album?
That's a great question. Um, I got inspiration from lots and lots and lots of different things. I've written a big um I've written a big kind of note to go with the release of the album, which if anyone's listening and you're more interested to read that, I'll talk about it now. But if you can go on my Facebook page, which is Herbie Walker Music, and on there I've written a lot about this already. So I can read a little bit of what I've written from there. The inspiration came from lots and lots of different places, but really just sort of my brain, thoughts and ideas. So all of the tracks are about different things, and each one I kind of take an influence from slightly different things, but yeah, very big kind of concepts about life and death and the universe and planet Earth and time and space. All of the wacky, well, wacky's the wrong word. All of the deep stuff, all of the really deep, important, big philosophical questions. In kind of inspired a lot of the themes and the music. I think these were the things that I'm thinking about when I'm strumming my guitar chords and coming up with these dreamy sounds. So one of the paragraphs I've written in this post is, like many of us, I've always thought very deeply about the meaning of life in its entirety from beginning to end. We all live with the knowledge that life as we know it will end. We therefore all face questions: is death the end, or is it simply passing from one mode of existence to another? So ideas of like heaven and the afterlife, right? And and what might our experience? What could there be more to our unique individual experience on this planet later? Could there be something, another phase? Could we wake up and realize there's more to the story? Of course, nobody knows the answer, but it's fun to think about. And particularly the last two tracks on the album touch on that a little bit. The last track's called Good Memory, and that's actually meant to represent sort of like an afterlife, maybe a heaven, but really it's this idea that all of the memories and thoughts and everything you've ever experienced in your life is kind of put on some kind of replay at the end, but in a kind of deeper context of understanding, because everybody has that, and everybody has that experience together at the same time. So we all share each other's memories. It's a bit crazy, and the music doesn't really allude to that straight away. That's why it's nice to talk about this, because that's one theory. It's this collective consciousness afterlife. I think there's a lot of similar theories similar to that out there, and I think it's a really interesting one. I really like the idea that we're all connected, and we certainly all will be connected in some other phase of consciousness. So yeah, maybe that's enough for that question.
What is on your music playlist?
On my music playlist. Now, which playlist do you mean?
Music.
Do you mean like a Spotify playlist that I've made?
Yeah.
Ah, that's a great question, Roz. Problem is, I've got so many playlists. I've got so many playlists that I wouldn't know where to start. I make playlists about I make all kinds of different playlists for different kinds of moods, and I was going to say genres, but I don't just make genre playlists like rock and metal. A lot of them are genre playlists like that, but then a lot of them as well, I've got they're kind of for different moods I'm in, and so I've got one called Comfort, which has probably been my favorite playlist. Comfort and relaxing, basically. It's all of these songs that just bring me home and make me feel okay when life gets really tough. And then I've got Feel Good Classics. That's a good one. I can read a few songs from Feel Good Classics. That's things like all the Motown. So Jackson 5, I Want You Back. Stevie Wonder. Tina Turner. Van Halen. Toto. Lots of fun things like this. You'd enjoy that playlist a lot, I'm sure. And then I've got a piano playlist because piano's kind of become the center of my music making, really. Just most of the things I do is on the keyboard, which is funny because when on the album Perspectives, if you've listened to it, you'll notice most of it is guitar, really, because when I first came to uni, that was my main instrument. I was mainly playing guitar, rock, and stringed things. And yeah, now it's mainly keyboards I use, but obviously bits of both. So yeah, on my piano playlist, I've got classical things, Moonlight Sonata, Beethoven, Moonlight Sonata over, and then Olafur Arnalds is a wonderful modern sort of post-classical composer who I am in love with. And Alexis French is another really beautiful pianist who I'd recommend for anyone who's listening and is interested in piano music. Let me tell you about one other playlist. I've got my love playlist. Songs that remind me of love or about love or make me feel in love. That's a good one. I never used to have a love playlist. I always thought that was really cringy, but here we are on the love playlist. Hey There Delilah by the Plain White Tees. That was one of the first songs I ever
Great song.
learnt, isn't it? Yeah. Only Love, Ben Howard. I saw Ben Howard live playing this song actually last year, and oh man, nearly made me cry. It's beautiful.
What's it like?
Uh, it was really, really good. He was playing a lot of newer songs that I didn't know as well, but then this chorus to Only Love came on, and I was just like, oh, I feel very in love, I suppose. I suppose that's how the song's meant to make you feel. So yeah, there's some songs from my playlists, but there's so many more.
Who would play you in a musical biopic?
Who would play me?
Yeah, and
Oh
sing.
my goodness. Oh my goodness.
It'd have to be someone extremely handsome, obviously.
Yeah. I'm definitely thinking sort of Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise already off the top of my head. But they, you know, people that look just like me. But I honestly don't know. I don't really know a lot of actors. I know that's a real top cop out. So I'm going to say Brad Pitt would play me, but then the stunt double who does the singing, um, maybe someone like Jacob Collier, because he is he's the musician who's inspired me my singing actually for the past sort of 4 or 5 years. When I kind of first fell in love with him and his music and his singing voice. You know, I don't know if you know Jacob Collier, Rory. Have you heard him before?
No?
Okay, I recommend him. You might like him, you might not, because a lot of people find his voice a bit annoying because it's quite kind of musical theatre and very posh. Is that the right word? I don't know. And like very well pronounced vocals, which kind of I think goes against the grain of a lot of singers who kind of sound a bit cool because they're imperfect. But Jacob Collier is, yeah, he's very bang on with his singing. So maybe if he would sing on my biopic, that would be good.
That'd be
We
great.
can do that. Yeah.
Right. What is your relationship with Kimara?
Well, the quick answer is that we're very good friends. Kimara is the singer in my band Kimara, although it's I suppose her band. It's her project that she set up. I think I don't know exactly when she set up because I didn't join the band straight away. I want to say like 8 years ago, Kimara started her project, and that was when she came to Brighton to study music. She came from the Netherlands, and excuse me, tea. I think it was about 4 years ago. No, longer. I think 5 years ago that I joined the band. And I'm glad I joined the band. I nearly didn't, but my girlfriend at the time said, "Oh, you shouldn't turn down this offer," because yeah, it was someone from my uni who got in touch and they said, "Yeah, this person Kimara is looking for a keyboard player," and I thought, "Oh, I don't know if I've got the time for it." And I'm so glad I went for it because it's turned out to be probably the best band I've ever played in. Because the style of music is so different to the stuff that I've normally played. You know, the album I've released is like big, kind of expansive instrumental post rock, quite heavy guitar stuff, and I've always been into like a lot of kind of out there music, rock and metal, but kind of electronic, and this band is neo soul, so it's a lot more. Well, it's not music that I was unfamiliar with. I always was very into soul, but I just never really played it. So it's been really nice to be in that band, to play some soul music. And I don't want to say it's simpler to what I used to do. It's absolutely not, because the kind of chords and the rhythms and things are actually quite complicated. And I think as a band we make an effort to make very kind of interesting music, but it's much more toned down to like the stuff I was producing before, which was all just yeah. But yeah, so Kimara's the lead singer of that band, and she's extremely kind, one of the nicest people I've ever met, and really accommodating with the whole band. We played a few gigs and little tours in the Netherlands, because that's where she's from. So we all go out as a band to the Netherlands, and we'll stay with her. Her and her mum. Her mum Yosha is absolutely lovely. Cooks us amazing meals while we're there, and and having the privilege to stay with them and have Kimara sort of show us around her hometown, but also Amsterdam and Utrecht and really cool places in the Netherlands. That's been an absolute privilege. So yeah, my relationship with Kimara is very good, and she's also been very supportive to me on a personal level whilst we've been in the band together. So that's, yeah, feel really lucky about that. Thanks, Kimmy.
Cool. Now, this is what I want to know, and it's not on the list, but what is it like to be vegan?
Oh, yeah, another good question. What is it like to be vegan? It's great. I'll tell you straight off the back that I'm not the most disciplined vegan in the world. I do break my rules sometimes. So I call myself a fleegan, and I know any vegans watching or listening will be like, dude, that's not good enough. But hopefully, some people will. I hope some people will understand the point of view that I come from, which is that anyone who's making an effort to eat less meat is doing some is doing some good thing to for the animals, and that's why I'm vegan. It's got nothing to do with my personal health, although I care about that. It's the animals. I do believe we should strive for a future where all the things that live on this planet get to live on this planet for their due course. But it's absolutely fine being a vegan. It's taken some time. It's taken quite a bit of time. I've had some good friends in Brighton who were vegan, and have spent a lot of time with them, and have had them cook amazing vegan food for me. I remember just eating some vegan food that friends have cooked for me, and just being like, wow, I could do this every day. Why don't I do this every day? Because ethically, I've always kind of thought, being veggie, being vegan is a good thing. But then I just thought to myself, why haven't I taken that step? And I think I did a couple of times in the past. But sorry, I realize I'm ranting off. I'm going away from the actual question, which is what's it like. It's great. I've now learned to really enjoy vegetables. I used to probably like 40% of vegetables. Now I like all of them in the right contexts. And yeah, I'm cooking with veg way more. And yeah, I think it's you can get all the nutrients you need from a plant-based diet. You do need to do a bit of research and make sure you're getting the right amount of protein in the right places. And I do have some supplements on the side. I think I've got vitamin B12 tablets as well, but I never had those before, and I'm fine. I get all the sort of physical exercise I need. And Yes, so being a vegan is good, and vegan food is amazing. And in Brighton, there's so many vegan restaurants that make kind of food that a lot of meat eaters, I think they're going to be missing out on, like, you know, nice juicy bacon and steak. But you get plant alternatives to these things that taste just as juicy and sweet, and yeah, so it's good. But I will break my rules occasionally, like if somebody cooks meat for me, if they didn't know that I was a vegan or something, and I'm at a dinner party, I forgot to tell them maybe, and some meat is on my plate, then I will eat it, because otherwise it's wasted, and I think that's worse. So I can stomach meat, and I do miss bacon sometimes, and occasionally I'll slip and have cheese. Cheese is the what's the word? Like, cheese is my kryptonite. But yeah, good question.
Next, your mum was telling me about performing at Glastonbury, but how are you feeling performing live at Glastonbury?
Yeah. Oh, Rory, I'm I'm absolutely buzzed. I'm really, really excited about Glastonbury. So I've talked about Kimara, one of my friends and one of my bands. I haven't talked about Izzy Derry, who's another musician I've befriended in Brighton. She was in my year at uni. And Izzy's another extremely talented singer-songwriter. She writes really, really wholesome folk music, songs about love and life. And I've been playing with Izzy for longer than I've been playing with Kimara now. I think probably the whole duration I've been at BIM, I've been playing with Izzy pretty much. So that must be, yeah, coming up to like 7 years now or something. And we've played loads of gigs. Again, really, really privileged to be in the band with Izzy, because she's given me the opportunity to play loads of festivals. We played Coventry, Godiva, I think, like 3 times. We played the big festival, and just loads of festivals actually in the UK. And now it's all, and I put quite a lot of effort in to the band as well. I've really kind of, when we were recording an album, I really kind of put my heart and soul into little details with my keyboard parts, and kind of, I don't want to say co-writing, Izzy, if you're watching this. I know you wrote the songs, but at the same time, it's been a real collaborative effort as a band. And that's really nice. I think that's the way it kind of needs to be when you record with a band, is that, you know, we all kind of get a say as to how our parts tie into the rest of the song. And it's all really paid off now, because Izzy's playing Glastonbury, and she gets to bring one band member along, and she's chosen me because I'm the best. No, I think because the songs work really nicely with just a piano and a guitar, it just seems like it's a nice setup for a duo, you know. And I sing a lot of the harmonies as well, so it works really, really nicely. So we're playing at the bandstand stage at Glastonbury Festival, and we both get a whole 5-day VIP ticket for the festival. So yeah, I'm excited to see Coldplay and Keane and Dua Lipa at Glastonbury. It's going to be wicked.
I was about to say, who is your dream lineup for Glastonbury?
Oh, my dream lineup. Wow. Oh, that's a really good question. Well, I guess that's just going to be, I mean, the lineup this year looks really, really good, but it's not as good as it has been. I guess my dream lineup would just be all of my favorite bands, wouldn't it? But particularly all of my favorite bands who I've never seen before. Yeah, so my my dream Glastonbury lineup, I've got this book here, Music Listography, that my dad, I think, got me for Christmas like 10 years ago now or something. And it's just got asks you loads of questions about music, and you can write things about the music that you love. So one of the pages says list all of the concerts and artists you've ever seen live. So I've got this page with all of the bands that I've ever seen, which is quite fun. I like coming back from a gig and adding a new artist to this. But then one of the pages is just basically list all of your favorite bands. So this says list your top favorite songs. Which is the one that, here we go, list your top favorite artists. So this, I did write this quite a long time ago. So I think this would have been my dream Glastonbury lineup from maybe 8 years ago. And it would have been something like Muse, System of a Down. That might change now. Sia Ross, who would still definitely be up there. They're an Icelandic post-rock band who are actually quite similar to the perspectives that I've put out. Radiohead, Linkin Park, Alt J, Evanescence, Animals as Leaders, The Deer Hunter, Deep Purple, Pink Floyd. I know some of these bands aren't about anymore, but they're still on the list. And Jacob Collier would be on there. He's that artist that I've fallen in love with recently. Yeah, so I think they would be the names at the top. So that's that question.
Yeah. What does Pearly Gates all about, and why you got that man talking?
Yeah, good question. So I mentioned a little bit earlier briefly about the album. And I said that it was inspired by lots of different things, mainly like philosophy about life and death, and I said a little bit, I think, about how the last track is kind of conveying what the afterlife could potentially feel or look like, and that was Good Memory. Pearly Gates is the track before that. That's the second to last track, and that song is essentially about death. That's what the Pearly Gates means. I think the Pearly Gates represent the doors to heaven. So that's what that is, and yeah, but I'm not sure why the image of the Pearly Gates was always something that was quite that image was just very poignant and strong, and yeah, I just sort of like that vision of kind of as you're closing your eyes, or taking your final breath, you're approaching these large gates in the sky or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I suppose it's a Christian vision, that I think. But so the song is about death. And again, I've written something down about that track. I've written a little thing about all of the tracks, which again you can see on my Herbie Walker Music Facebook page, or my Instagram, same thing, Herbie Walker Music. I've written a little piece about all of these. So the Pearly Gates note says, fast forward to the latter years of your life. The penultimate track, Pearly Gates, represents resolutions, accomplishments, and endings. Before I carry on as well, I should just explain a little bit that each track of the album is meant to represent a different stage of life. So there's 6 tracks. Divine Intervention is essentially birth and childhood. In Your Long Life is childhood and adolescence. Cathartic, track 3, is kind of a burst into adulthood. That's probably the phase of my life that I'm in now. Epiphany would be sort of later adulthood and kind of challenges in life, and sort of realizing more about what the world is and where you stand in it. And then that 4th track kind of is the rest of life, really. Pearly Gates is then the end. Pearly Gates is your so it's not that these chunks don't work perfectly. And I'm only 25, so I don't know why I'm writing an album inspired by all of the phases of life when I think my brain's only just finished developing, right, at 25. So it's just a fun idea, really, isn't it? But so Pearly Gates, where was I? What was I saying about that? The first section of music rotates around an ever ascending chord progression with a repeating melody at a slow tempo. This is kind of meant to be painting an image of the slow final years of your life, building towards the end, but not before a final vast wall of sound. So that's this loud, kind of noisy chorus with the drums and the bass, and this is meant to be, again, just sort of this final kind of heroic year. And then church bells play this. There's quite a few sort of little Easter eggs, little things I put here in the album to represent ideas. So you can hear at the final peak of this loud section, you can hear church bells playing Dies Irae, which is I think it's a famous choral piece about death. It's another song about death, and the Dies Irae, the melody goes dum 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 dum, and it's normally quite like, I think that the original piece is very dark and menacing, but I've taken that melody and I've put it in a context of harmony or the music that I've made, which is a little bit more, I would say, uplifting, a little bit more positive. So yeah, it's and that Dies Irae is essentially meant to mark the final breath before the music plunges us about halfway into the song into this very dark reverberant space, where we're introduced to the Rhodes loop sparkling. That's and that thing repeats, and as it repeats and repeats and repeats, then these chords and these bells start playing, and that introduces us into a new section, and this section is meant to kind of represent the passage from death into this next track, which I mentioned, which is like the afterlife. And in that section, we hear a reprise and a conclusion of the words from the beginning of the album. So this is addressing the other part of your question, who is the man talking? This is Alan Watts. If you haven't heard of Alan Watts, go check out some of his philosophy and some of his thoughts about life and consciousness and the universe and spirituality. It's really, really interesting. I've always really liked Alan Watts. I think I discovered him when I was definitely too young and naive to really understand what he was talking about. And I still, it's hard to grasp. They're very abstract concepts, a lot of the things he's talking about. But amazing nonetheless. He I think provides kind of explanations for some things that some religions also do. But Alan Watts, I think, for me, put things across in a way that was maybe slightly easier to kind of swallow or understand. Everybody has very unique ideas and outlooks on the universe and what it all might mean, and how things might work. But I think Alan Watts just really kind of, when you listen to him for long enough, you're in his mindset, and you can kind of understand things through the lens that he sees the world. And so yeah, he's talking about it's a meditation really, which is basically where you imagine a scenario, and the scenario he's talking about is trying to remember what it was like to be born. And he kind of makes the point that you can't quite remember what it was like to be born because there was no experience before that. So the first experience you have is completely unique. And that's what he's talking about in the beginning of the album and the track that's about birth. But then in Pearly Gates, it's the other half of that spoken word. But interestingly, it's not the second half, it's the first half. So in the first track about birth, it's like the second half of this speech that he's giving. And then in this next track later in the album, it's the first half. But then we get to the end of the first half and we're suddenly in the middle, and the last line he says is that was when you were born. try and imagine what it would be like to go to sleep and never wake up. That's essentially, trying to imagine what death might be like. And then he's saying the only thing you could possibly imagine is birth. So for me, what that says is it's suggesting the kind of it's suggesting, I think, a reincarnation. It's obviously not evidence for a reincarnation, but it's like, if the only thing that we can possibly know is experience, because we can't know non-experience, because there's no such thing as not as experiencing non-experience, because that's circular. Yeah, anyway, it's hard to go. I don't want to go too deeply into the sort of philosophy behind it, because a lot of it goes beyond my head as well. But yes, that's Alan Watts, and I find that the spoken word in the first track and the fifth track provide some kind of existential comfort in the thought of death, because I've always been a little bit scared of death, and that's hearing these words kind of brings me a sense of ease, I suppose. So that's what that is. Deep.
How would you describe your sister?
Oh, bloody lovely, mate. Bloomin' lovely. Absolutely angelic and calming as well. I know. Well, I know Suze can have her chaotic moments, but we all can. And actually, yeah, Suze brings me a lot of ease, and a lot of joy, and a lot of laughter. I miss her a lot, actually, which is why I'm looking forward to moving back to Devon from Brighton, so I can be nearer to my family. And yeah, what else can I say about Susie? I mean, she's recently been playing pranks on her carers and housemates. What's she been doing? She's been putting her glass eyes down the toilet or something, and they've been disappearing. I think that was the most recent thing. Susie's always up to some form of mischief, so there's never a dull moment with Susie. And she's always also one of the best people to talk to. You can sit down with Suze for ages, and somehow, be relaxed and have your mind taken off things, but still be chatting for hours, which is, just lovely. And yeah, it's always, I just don't see Susie often enough. It's always, sort of Christmas or summer, or when I come home, and seeing Suze is always like a real sign of coming back to my roots. And yeah, this is why I'm looking forward to moving back. She's a real light in the world, and brings a lot of people a lot of joy. Best sister ever.
Oh, how would you relieve stress?
How would I really stress? So do you mean what kinds of things make me stress, or do you mean what am I like when I'm stressed?
When you're like stress and not stress.
What am I like when I'm stressed? It's a good question, actually. Yeah, I think I have been stressed quite a bit recently. Some days, I think, particularly at work as well, when I've just got like lots of things to think about, and outside of work as well. I'm kind of just trying to do more and more and more things in my life, which is good. It's paying off, but it means kind of intentionally doing things that are stressful, rather than trying to avoid stress all the time, which is what I think a lot of people do, and I certainly did for years and years. And I think I'm personally, for me, learning that actually just going in and facing stressful things is actually quite good for you, because that the only way you're ever going to get better at handling stress is by just sort of like going at it, and experience really is the best teacher, I think. So, but when it depends how stressed I am, but sometimes I can be a little bit what's the word, sort of, well, I'm not as gentle, I think, when I'm stressed. Like if I'm late for something, that's the time when people are more stressed than ever, right? Is when you're running out of time, and then in the kitchen I'm sort of like slamming cupboards and putting plates down on the table, making much more racket than I'd normally make. So I think when I'm stressed, I am more noisy, and I think you just have less time to breathe between each thought and each moment when you're stressed. So I think when you're talking to people as well, when you're with friends and you're stressed, I have to apologize to my housemates sometimes, because I can be just like not normally when I come back from work. It's nice. I always try and ask my housemates how their day has been, and I think that's a sign that I'm stressed, is when I don't do that, when I talk about whatever's necessary, what I need to talk about, or I get straight into doing something that I feel like I need to do. So I think when I'm stressed, it's just like, it's very obvious that I have sort of less time to do and say things that are more relaxed. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. Maybe you can relate to that.
Who is your musical icon?
It's Jacob Collier. It's Jacob Collier right now, for sure. I've had various icons through the days. Well, actually, I'm not sure if it's definitely not just him. It used to be Matt Bellamy from Muse. I was absolutely Muse obsessed. So were my friends back in school, and we were in basically a Muse tribute band, and then I really got into Radiohead. So it was Tom York. He was my icon. And then but Jacob Collier, just his personality. He has so much life and zest, and love and joy, and I think that's just so important. And he's also just an extremely dedicated, talented musician, extremely creative person, and I admire so much about him. But then there's lots of other musical artists who I really look up to as well, like Olafur Arnalds I mentioned recently. He's the kind of neoclassical composer, pianist man. His kind of vibe, I suppose, his personality is something that I find quite inspiring. He's a very calm person.
Where can we find tickets for your live performance?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, one of the live performances, obviously, just Glastonbury Festival. So if you can somehow find tickets for Glastonbury, you can see me then. But I'm not even sure which date I'm playing. But I've got a gig coming up in Brighton with Kimara. I've actually got a few gigs coming up. So the gig we're playing is in Brighton. It's at Brighton Dome. But it's the smaller venue in Brighton Dome. I haven't actually been there. Brighton Dome normally has really, really, really big. I think it's like a 1,000 capacity venue. So when Kimara told us that we were playing at Brighton Dome, I was like, wow, that's incredible. And it still is incredible, but the venue we're playing is not 1,000 cap. I think it's maybe 100 or something. I'm not sure though. I haven't actually been there. It's in June Friday, the 21st of June, I'm playing with Kimara at Brighton Dome. The tickets are only £5. And that's just before we go away to the Netherlands to play at North Sea Jazz Festival, which is very, very exciting. So that will be where you can see me and Kimara and the rest of the band. I think it's there'll be about 13 people on stage, something like that. Well, we've got 2 guitars, drums, percussion, keyboards, 4 singers, no, 3 singers, bass, 2 horns. So 11 people on stage. I might have gotten that wrong, but yeah, big band.
Well, this is a good one. Where can we hear Perspective album?
Yeah, that's an important one. I'm also going to post a link to Perspectives, the album, in the Zoom chat. So you can hear it on Spotify or Apple Music or any of the major streaming platforms. So I can't remember what these are off the top of my head, but I know Spotify and Apple Music are the most common ones. YouTube Music, I think. It's definitely on YouTube Music. I'm not sure how many people use that. And then Deezer, Tidal, SoundCloud. These are the other streaming services that I know of. Amazon Music. I think that's a thing. It's on Amazon Music as well. So anywhere really that you can find the majority of music that you stream, you'll be able to find Perspectives. So I'm going to copy the link to it. Or if you have like a Google or an Alexa or something, if you just say, hey, Google or Alexa, play Perspectives by Herbie Walker, the album will pop up.
What is the future of your music career?
Good question. Oh, all these questions are brilliant, Rory. Yeah. Because I am excited to think and talk about the future. So, as I said, I've been working on Perspectives for a long time, nearly sort of 6 years, because I had the idea for the album when I first started uni. So I realize every one of these questions you ask, I talk about something completely different, but it should sort of tell a bit of a story that leads to the point. So because before I was at uni, I was in a band with some friends in college, and that was where we first started doing the instrumental post-rock music that you'll hear on Perspectives. So I inevitably had to leave that band when I moved to Brighton, but we released an album called The Concept of Eternity. That band was called High Rock, and that's on Bandcamp. But when I moved to uni, that was still kind of the kinds of music that I was playing and listening to a lot and thinking about. So it was kind of just a continuation of that. I was like, keen to write some new stuff. And that was what was coming out of me, I guess. That was what was coming out of my my mind into the guitar and the piano keys. And it's taken me so long to release this album because for various reasons. I think the main reason was probably COVID. COVID meant that basically I couldn't do some of the recording that I wanted to do in the studio. So that COVID just delayed everything by like nearly 2 years. So although I'd almost finished the album by that point, but it just wasn't ready, and I had to wait until COVID ended to then continue polishing off the bits that I wanted. And then just some other things in life happened, like finishing uni and some challenges, and it just took me so long to finish the damn thing off, and it got to the point where every time I listened to the album, I listened to the tracks, I was like, I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with this. I want to redo this. And it got to this point where I almost just gave up. Actually, it was it was a bit of a dramatic story. I almost just thought, I put so much work into this, and I just still think it's bad. I'm really self-critical. But then it's weird. Like every time I listened to it, I was in a slightly different headspace, and sometimes I was feeling more good about it, and other times I was more critical. And I think that's a really interesting thing, actually, is how how dramatically I think our opinions can change from day to day. And so, but all my friends and family who heard it were very supportive, and they were like, dude, just release it, this sounds amazing. I was like, okay, thank you. And I do want to just put it out. So releasing it was like a massive weight off my shoulders, and it feels so good to have finalized that project so I can move on to the future, which was the question you asked. So the future, I'm not planning, well, I am planning on writing and hopefully releasing more music, but not anytime soon, because it's taken me so long to do this. And I think one of the things that this project has revealed is that being a full-time artist is not my goal, I don't think. Honestly, Rory, I think one of the things that I'm very excited about going forward is your album. I think that's one thing that's really motivating me at the moment, is working on beautiful music. I've over the this month of May, I've probably spent maybe 8 hours, 10 hours a week on your album, which is really nice. I've been doing like quite long sessions, actually, sitting down for like 4 hours at a time and really getting loads done. Writing new parts, just building the album. So the future, definitely, you're a big part of my musical future, Roars, and hopefully, yeah, and hopefully similar kinds of projects, working on music with other people. I think when I move to Devon, I'd like to meet some new musicians who live near where my parents live in Newton Abbot, and also I'm might potentially move to Bristol to do a master's in music therapy. So that's another potential idea for the future. So that could be really exciting. So yeah, less about me, more about others.
Cool. One last question. People keep saying we like Elton John and Bernie. What is
Yeah.
it?
People like saying what? Sorry.
People think you and me sound like a couple between Elton John and Bernie top trooping.
Really?
Yeah.
They think we sound like that?
Well, we do look similar between them.
Ah. Oh no, I like that. Yeah, I mean, well, I can't remember who Bernie Taupin is. Is he a musician?
He's a manager of Elton John.
Ah, he's Elton John's manager. Yeah, because you've told me this before. Okay, so you're like Elton John and I'm like Bernie.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, well, I vibe with that. I like that. I like having a label of producer and manager. It makes me feel very special.
Yeah.
And you certainly, your voice certainly reflects some Elton John in a lot of your songs, I would say.
Yeah.
Which one in particular? I'm trying to think which of your songs. Sing It, I think, is one that I'm very excited for people to hear. That song's got that's got some real how do I describe it? It's got some of Rory's real unique character. You have some very unique characters in each of your different songs. It's really exciting. So yeah, cannot wait to share it with the world. Just like I've shared my album with the world, we're going to share your album with the world. So yeah,
Cool.
keep your eyes open.
We're running out of time now because it says it on the laptop. I think
Yeah,
call it a day.
great. So that's all your questions. Amazing, Rory.
Thank you, Herb.
Well, thank you so much for having me and asking me those questions. It's been really nice to waffle on. Hopefully not too much, but yeah, it's really lovely to share my stories with you guys. And yeah, it's so nice to talk about these things. Actually, it's moments like this that make me realize, how much I have done and learnt, and yeah, it's very exciting.
Oh,
Cool.
Thank you.
thank you.
That's a wrap.